Good day, everybody. Welcome to Canadian music in the 80s and 90s and more. I hope you like what you're seeing and hearing. If you do, please click a like. I'd appreciate it. Um, it's my pleasure to be joined by Ivan from Men Without Hats. Thanks for joining me today. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
You guys have got a busy year coming up. Your single "I Love the 80s" has really taken off. I love it. It's fantastic. I can't stop
Thank you.
listening to it. Um, And that's just a single. You've got some more new music coming out, don't you?
Yeah, the full album's coming out at the end of October, beginning of November. It'll include I Love the 80s, and it's got six or seven new songs that were recorded around the same time.
Where did you record them this time around? Did you record them in one spot or did you
We
is it
did
been
a couple of spots. We did a few of them with Brian Howes up at his studio on Vancouver Island, where I live. He's up island a bit. He's in Comox, I think it's Courtney or Comox,
Mhm.
up up towards the top half of the island, and the rest we recorded in Victoria at my own studio in Victoria on Vancouver Island.
how was the process of putting this together? Is it still fun for you?
It is. It is. I love it. We had a lot of fun doing the "I Love the 80s" song. It was the hardest part was cutting it down to 3 minutes 30 for radio because with all the references, 80s references and things like that, the song could have been about 3 hours long. We were having a good time with it. uh, that was the hardest thing. The video too was a lot of fun. I haven't done a video for about 40 years now, so that was a hoot putting that together too.
But you've always kept busy playing shows. I personally remember seeing you at the Festival of Friends in Hamilton several years ago when they had it out in the farmer's field.
Yeah,
Um, and you were playing with the box and Psychedelic Furs that evening.
remember that.
That
I remember that.
that was quite a performance. I hadn't seen you guys in quite some time, so it was really cool to see you guys back on stage again. But you really kept busy. You still keep very busy performing, from what
Yeah,
I've
no,
seen.
I love it. I love it. We have a busy rest of the summer coming up. We're about a month into it, and we're we're going till the end of the year and continuing into next year. We've already got shows lined up for the beginning of next year already. We're doing some Canadian dates. We're heading down to the States, do some American dates, back up to Canada. Then we're off to Europe. We're doing a UK, Europe, and Scandinavia. And then we come back North America. We do a short run with Wang Chung and a few other things in Canada. We're all over the place. It's great. We end up in Cancun on the beaches of Cancun in Mexico for a 80's in the Sand festival with a bunch of other 80's bands. So those are always a lot of fun too.
What's it like doing those kind of festivals where there's other 80s bands like yourself? Like, is there people you've met before, obviously, and cross paths with over the years?
Yeah, by now, like we've been playing with a lot of those bands. Like Wang Chung is one of them. Flock of Seagulls is a band we've played with a lot. I mean, um, it's great. I mean, I say that I used to think that like being in a band in the 80's in a new band starting off was a bit like being on a hockey team. You're traveling around the country, and you're competing against other bands. You're competing for chart positions, for venues, for fans, for press. It's a competition. But now at this stage of the game, the work's been done, and there's no competition. There's no pressure. The people who are out there, the bands who are out there, aren't really necessarily flogging a new record or anything like that. They're just out there to have fun. They're Everybody's really happy that people are still listening to their music, and we're out there to touch base with our old fans and meet the new ones and give them the music that they came to enjoy. So it's a one big happy 80's family traveling around, and it's great. It's great to see these guys again.
I know you played a few shows for my friend Ed Sousa for the McBowl series, and he usually gets quite a gathering of great bands that you probably toured and played with many times over the years.
Yeah, yeah. No, we haven't done the McBowl thing, but we he was involved with one of the concerts we did, and yeah, we like we're going out with Spoons again, doing
Mm.
some Canadian dates with Spoons. We've been playing with them for over 40 years now, so I mean, they're just like, it's part of the family now. It's great. It's a lot of fun.
And it's obvious you still enjoy making new music, which is what I really like to push on my channel here, is that you're not just relying on your old hits. You still keep making new music, and it's great. Like it's as good as anything you've ever done, which is my in my personal opinion, and I love
Oh,
promoting that.
well, thank you, thank you. No, we enjoy it. We have been putting out new stuff, and we have plans to keep doing that. So it's great. It's a lot of fun. Especially this last project with Brian was it was great too, because it's always, you know, you think you think you know it all, but there's always something else to learn, and there's a, I mean, the technology changes, so there's that side of it that there's always a learning process involved with new gear and new formats and everything like that. Just things are constantly changing in this business too, so it's it's great. It's keeps it interesting and keeps it fresh.
It's great to see that there's still a demand for you guys as well. So it means you'll keep playing, which is good for us. The other thing I was going to mention is there's a lot of people from your era still making new music too. Like I talked to Mark Gain the other night from Martha and the Muffins, and he's still putting out new music too. So it's great
Yeah.
to see all the people from that era still at it and still creating.
Well, yeah. Well, the Rolling Stones are still at it.
Yeah.
They set the bar high. So they're an inspiration. There's a lot of the '60s and '70s bands are still out there and still putting out new music, and so there's no reason why '80s bands can't do the same thing. It's going to be, the '90s bands are still doing it. I mean, it's you never really, it's sometimes it's a bit like professional sports where, when your time is up, your time's up. But in music, it's a different thing. It's if you're still creating, if you're still composing, then why not?
If you don't mind, do you mind if I go back in time and talk about when did you guys get started? Like when did you start making music?
Well, I actually started making music when I was taking, piano lessons as a teenager. My mother was a music professor at McGill University in Montreal, and we were my brothers and I, took music lessons. Colin and I took piano, and Stefan took violin. So I had to practice every day, before I could go out and play with my friends, type of thing. But at one point, my parents said to me that they didn't really care if I practiced scales or the pieces I was supposed to learn, as long as I spent an hour a day at the piano. And so that's when I started composing when I was a teenager. And then, at the end of the '70s came around, and punk rock, punk new wave happened, and there was a real sort of DIY kind of attitude and atmosphere, and you didn't have to be a major virtuoso. You just had to have a good idea, and you were on your way. And everybody was starting a band. It seemed everybody was, putting bands together. It was, we'd grown up listening to the classic rock. We grew up in the classic rock era, but all of a sudden there was room for something new. And so the '80s were like a breath of fresh air for everybody. It was a time of artistic freedom and creation and experimentation. There was new technology coming in. Video was new. Computers were starting to come into our lives. Synthesizers were becoming affordable, that type of thing. And so everybody was starting bands, and I was inspired by by progressive rock music. I grew up in Montreal, and Montreal was a big sort of progressive rock city. We grew up listening to Genesis and Pink Floyd and Rush and King Crimson, Yes, a lot of prog rock, and also disco was really big in Montreal. And I've always thought that 80s new wave, the kind of music that I ended up doing, was a combination of those two styles. It was a combination of prog rock and disco. It was synthesizer music you could dance to, and that's what I brought to the table.
And I guess it helped a lot with Much Music getting off the ground too and giving you guys a leg up and playing a lot of your videos and stuff like that. Like I really thought they did a lot to help Canadian bands in those early days.
Absolutely, absolutely. Those, the video channels were all brand new too, and especially back in those days. And when we made the safety dance video, the channels only had, you know, a limited amount of content. They didn't have, there wasn't too many, weren't too many bands on the that had, had videos out. So we got really, really massive rotation. And the video for Safety Dance was instrumental, very instrumental in the success of the song. It was especially the video itself, being a medieval Pied Piper
Right.
theme video, it stood out. Everybody was expecting, with a song called The Safety Dance, everybody was
Yeah.
expecting me to be the new wave John Travolta, but now you can kind of watch these 80s videos and chuckle at the hairdos and the neon clothing and the pointy shoes and whatnot. But our videos it stands the test of time. It's like watching a Western. You can't really pinpoint when it was actually made. It's timeless. And so it really served us well. And like I say, it stood out amongst all the other 80s videos, and it became very memorable for a lot of people. It definitely, made an impression when people saw it. It's not what they were expecting. They weren't expecting some guy with 60s hippie length hair, and a dwarf running through a field, leading people on a procession to a maypole dance with Morris dancers and everything. They just weren't
Yeah.
expecting that. So it did its job.
And the song stood out too. So, I mean, there was nothing like that on the air at the time either, I found anyway, because and the song, I always found Canadian bands stood out more than American bands anyway. I always thought they had their own voice, like Canadian
Oh
artists in
yeah,
general.
definitely. I mean, you mentioned Martha and the Muffins before. There was a song they were an inspiration to me. The Echo Beach was like I used to sing that in my sleep. That was one of the great songs of that era. And Canada, provided a lot of good 80s music. The Nova Heart, Spoons, Sunglasses at Night, Corey Hart. These are classics. They're, they've all stood the test of time. And
But,
there were a lot of good bands came out of Canada.
well, even out of Quebec, you guys came out of Quebec. Corey Hart came out of Montreal. And the Box on the heels of you guys getting big, and the Box came out big, and then that almost, I don't know if it paved on, I'm sure Quebec had a big music industry of their own before even you guys came out and hit the mainstream in Canada.
Yeah,
But yeah, Quebec had a really good music industry going too.
yeah. No, it was. They were fun times. Rational Youth. There
Hmm.
was like a lot of bands. Like a lot of bands came out, and all across Canada. It was like I say, it was exciting times. Exciting times.
So you came out with the big hit was Safety Dance, but you got two Canadian classics. Pop Goes the World came out and really turned people on its heads too. Another song which I thought stood out among other songs, like in the mix of music, it really did stand out.
Yeah, we've been honored having both those songs inducted into the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame, which was a great honor for us. And that was there it was you know can't don't know what to say. They were they've stood the test. They've crossed the generations. You know, I think we were fortunate also to have been able to touch upon sort of larger themes, like Safety Dance was all about marching to your own beat and not following the
Right.
crowd if you don't want to. And I think today, in today's sort of climate of social media and peer pressure and pressure to conform, that the new generation is definitely feeling. I think that the message that you can dance if you want to and you can leave your friends behind, I think people still need to hear that. You know, it's kind of, it's still applicable today. It's still relevant. And Pop Goes the World, the same thing. It was the sort of the beginning of the green movement, and the message there was that if we don't start treating Mother Earth with more respect, she's going to blow up. And it's a concern that's still on people's mind today. So it seems
Right.
that, and that was the whole point of one of the points of 80s music was, because I mean, although that decade brings back a lot of very fond memories and good memories and happy times, it was, there wasn't all fun and games. It was the Reagan Thatcher era.
Right.
There was a big sort of very vocal opposition to the status quo. It was the birth of punk rock, which was, sort of, can be seen
Mm.
as being, sort of created to voice on, an opposition. And so, but the point that we were trying to do, the thing that we were trying to do was to create, um, pass along as sort of a serious message, but in a fun way, and put a sort of a good message along, in a happy way. And I think we succeeded.
I've never seen a decade that started and ended so differently and had so much different styles and different artists get big over a 10-year period. Like it was very, very different music. I mean, I was always amazed at what you could hear on a radio station back then. You could hear Bruce Springsteen and Madonna and Van Halen, and then hear you guys, and it was all
Yeah.
mixed in. Whereas, like, I don't think that's such a common thing nowadays.
Some really great songs were written during those times. And I'm a big fan of rap music, but I just don't know how many Eminem songs we're going to be singing around the campfire in 20 years. It's
Right.
whereas the 80s gave us a lot of great melodies, a lot of great sing-alongs, a lot of really memorable songs that had a lot of them had it wasn't all about drive-ins and girlfriends. There was a lot of the songs had some legitimate concerns that they were voicing. So it was it was an era also that was very focused on the youth more than
Mhm.
the previous generations. Even more than 70s, 60s, even the 50s. I mean, the 50s was a youth generation too, but the 80s were really like, with all the new technology. There was movies, there was, the Breakfast Club, there's Bueller, Back to the Future, and all these youth oriented movies, and just, it was so that's one of the things I think that's helped it cross the generations, is that people grew up in the 80s, really, really sort of got into the music. And when they became parents, they were playing their music, and their kids grew up listening to their parents' music much more than I did. My parents, I didn't really sort of, I didn't connect with my parents with their music. I didn't become a big fan of Frank Sinatra's, or
Right.
that type of thing. Whereas this generation, this new generation, grew up listening to Madonna, grew up listening to Pet Shop Boys, Duran Duran, things like that. So that's why I think you hear a lot of 80s influences in contemporary pop music today. You hear a lot of the 80s drum sound, the big drum, you hear a lot of synthesizers, a lot of robot voices. You hear all these sort of 80s 80s sounds in modern music today. And so I think, that's when we do play live, we see our original fans, but they bring their kids and sometimes even their grandkids too. So it's we've been blessed to be able to cross generations like that. I mean, we've been able to those our major songs have been able to embed themselves into popular culture, which doesn't hurt either. And song shows like The Simpsons or Family Guy or shows like Glee brought our music to a whole new generation of listeners too. So that was something that helped us cross the generations as well.
Or even the way the Kate Bush song took off because of Stranger Things. That really did a
You
lot for
know,
it too.
that's it. It's like there's
You never
exactly.
you never know.
You
So
never
you
know.
got and it's you guys still perform a lot live, like I've mentioned before. Do you guys ever record any of your shows?
We do. We put out a live record at the beginning of the year,
Okay.
Men Without Hats Live. It's basically the set that we did on the Totally Tubular tour last year. We toured America and a bit of Canada. We did a couple of shows in Canada, but was mostly concentrated on the States. We toured with Tom Bailey, the Thompson Twins, and Thomas Dolby, Modern English, and so we taped our the set, and it's out there. It's on vinyl too, even so for the collectors. But it's on most platforms.
Excellent.
There's
Is
more
it
to
some
come.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Would you do that? Are you going to do that again? Like maybe even get video footage of some of it?
Yeah, we are definitely doing that. We've started doing taping a lot of more of our shows and taping, getting the video of it too and everything. It's so easy now with the new technology. It's not the big process that it used to be. It's just like making records back in the 80s. Making a record was a huge production. I mean, you needed a budget, you needed a studio, you needed all kinds of engineers and producers and tape jockeys and guys to make the coffee and all kinds. I mean, you needed an army of people and a budget to match too. So not everybody could make records back then. It was for the quote unquote chosen few. But nowadays, with the new technology, I mean, it's accessible to a lot of people, and even myself, I make demos that are almost they're almost the final product. I mean, a lot of the tracks that I put on my demo, I use on the final mix. A lot of the tracks on I Love the 80s were from the demos that I did, and so that's one good thing about the technology that's changed. It's changed the industry a bit. It's made the music, the music making process a bit more democratic. To say, I
Right.
think it's available to a lot more people, and it's kind of like that's kind of it's almost like the 80s. I mean, that's how the 80s were. Like in the 80s, that whole punk new wave movement started, like the same way too. It put the music back into people's hands. It didn't. It we to appreciate music, you didn't have to be only a listener. You could also make your own too. So that's happened again. It's the industry is quite cyclical. So it without appearing to be, it is very cyclical. So that's one of the things that came back.
Well, even like what I'm doing, I can't believe. I mean, do you like the idea that you can get your music out in so many different ways by people who do podcasts or YouTube channels like I'm doing? You don't have to go into much music anymore or go to a TV show or a TV station to do this anymore.
I mean, it's great. Even just the fact of being able that that the people who enjoy my music are able to contact me, quite easily. It was if I had, been able to contact, Peter Gabriel back in the '70s and ask him like who made his outfits. I mean, I would have been over the moon.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, I discovered Genesis by a one little black and white picture of Peter Gabriel with the bat wings on his head in Cream magazine, and only got to listen to the music about a year later when a friend of mine brought Foxtrot, Genesis Foxtrot, back from a trip to Europe. He brought the album back with him, and so it took that long for me to hear a band that I had been I just wondering what's going on with this guy. Who is this guy? Who is this bat wings on his head? And now it's a lot more, it's a lot more instant. It's which is a good and a bad thing too. I mean, it's not everybody needs to know what I had for breakfast, but I mean it's just part of it, I guess.
No, I'm just happy to be able to talk to someone like yourself about, because I've been listening to this music all my life and I still love it as much today as I did back then. And to be able to speak with someone like yourself about it is an absolute honor.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Thank you.
and it's very exciting to be able to do what I'm doing. I'm doing this for fun. I don't get paid. Um, I can't believe the people I've talked to already. Um, and I'm just going to keep doing it because it's fun. I don't care about the money.
Yeah.
And obviously, you wouldn't be doing it. Obviously, the money's not an issue to you because you keep doing it because you love it.
Really, that's it, not like that's it, how it is with all the bands that are on the sort of this 80s circuit that we're doing. It's nobody's out there to pay the rent. We're out there because we love to do it. Nobody's being forced, to do it. I mean, there are a couple of guys who have three or four ex-wives who need to make the alimony payments, but that's not the main reason people are out there. We're out there to have fun, and we do have fun, and like I said before, there's no competition anymore. So it's there's a big camaraderie, and it's really awesome. I mean, I too have gotten to meet, you know bands that I, like Human League, for example, was one of the bands that sort of made me form Men Without Hats. I listened to Human League and I was, wow, is that ever cool? And sort of gave me the sort of the impetus, the drive to start my own band. And then when I put the band back together 15 years ago, the first tour that I did was opening up for Human League all across
Oh,
North America, and the B-52s on top of it. So it was it's great. That's just the perks of this business is you get to meet your musical heroes, and I've always been a musical fan. I mean, I got into this business. You know, the first reason was because I was a music fan myself, a record collector, just an avid concert goer in the '70s.
yeah.
Fortunate,
Yeah. That's what I like to hear the most is how big of a fan of music guys like you are. Like you make great music. You've got a lot of fans of yourself, but you're fans of music too, which is always, it's always great to hear what first got you excited about music too.
well, I was lucky. I grew up in the '70s, which was also a great era for music. It was the birthplace of a lot of genres, and I mean, I saw the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon tour, and I saw the Led Zepp 3 tour, a lot of classic Who Quadrophenia tour. Saw a lot of classic rock tours that I'm just really really fortunate enough to have been the right age at the right time. The Led Zeppelin concert, I think, was the ticket was $5.
Imagine.
Yeah, but we weren't too happy because the last time they'd been through on Led Zeppelin 2, the tickets were 350, and so it was a big jump, and we were like, it was almost twice as much, and these guys are ripping us off here. $5 tickets. What are they thinking?
That was a lot of money back then, wasn't it?
It was.
No, it's amazing. In terms of when is the album actually going to come out that I Love the 80s is going to be on?
It's going to be out at the end of October,
Okay.
beginning of November. It's called Men Without Hats on the Moon,
Hmm.
and yeah, it'll be coming out on vinyl as well. And,
And I'll put all the
it,
tour dates in the description of this video. So if anyone's wondering when that's going to happen, that'll check the links below.
yeah,
Um,
we're going to be
um,
busy.
are you going to come to the Maritimes?
We're
Fingers
trying to.
crossed.
We haven't got any shows. We made it to Fredericton just about a month ago, and we're going to be in Halifax, Rock the Harbor in Dartmouth in middle of August, I think. And so I mean, that's kind of the Maritimes.
Oh, it definitely is the Maritimes, and it's a doable distance from Charlottetown, but you must come to PEI sometime too.
Yeah, we'd love to. We'd love Canada's such a beautiful country. It's unfortunate that it's so big, and but it's a beautiful. One of my favorite drives is driving across Canada. It's one of the things I like about touring. Also, is just being in a bus and going across the country. It's, it's a great country.
Yeah, I'll never forget what one of my favorite bands, Spirit of the West, said about when they first toured across the country in a van. The best time to do that in Canada was February. So, because they got stuck in snowstorms through half of their tour, which I thought was kind of funny, which I'm sure you've been through as well.
Yeah, a lot of bands. We had some bands cancel out tours. European bands cancel out tours in like in the winter because they didn't want it. They didn't want to tour Canada in the winter months. So,
Well, you kind of get it, but well, at least we understand why anyway, but we're used to it. We're tough, right?
yeah. Oh, we did Quebec last year in February. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Well, that's the thing Canadians do, right? Instead of whining about the winter, we have festivals in the winter.
That's it. That's it.
So we embrace it, which is,
That's why we use that's why we used the Bonhomme Carnival for the Where Do the Boys Go video because we figure if that guy can lure everybody to come out and party and party outside in February in Quebec City, he should be able to help us sell some records.
for sure. Ivan, I can't thank you enough for joining me. I really appreciate it. Good luck with the album when it comes out. I love the 80s as a hint. It's going to do well. And good luck with your
Thank you.
tour. Good luck with your tour,
Well,
I'm
thank
sure.
you.
And have a good, safe travels, sir.
Thanks a lot. Nice talking to you.
Take care, sir. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye now.